Chamber this week. It's our 2018 Fandom wrap-up. We talk about the highs of 2018. What will make our list? Will your 2018 highs match ours? Can you possibly stand listening to Joe ramble on about that movie again? Also in the final episode of 2018, Cody and Joe reflect on the magic of the holiday season. Will there be guests? Will the guests sound the same as they have in other episodes? Will they ever get back to the normal format? All this and more on Fandom Roulette. Damn, that was a lot. That was actually more questions than I anticipated. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
Oh man. Hey guys, this is Fandom Roulette, a podcast where we normally talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including, but not limited to, history, video games, RPGs, and other things. But we've been kind of breaking the mold this holiday season. We're doing things a little differently. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So we're like...
we're still talking about nerdy stuff. Don't you fret. I don't think there's ever... someone's going to quote this exact podcast episode later, but I think that we're going to stay on the nerd train. This nerd train doesn't stop.
Choo-choo.
Unless it's just a slow roll so people can get on.
Yeah. That's well, and sometimes trains do stop, like, to get more fuel and stuff.
No stopping this train.
It's like,
this is
it's like the movie
Snowpiercer. You know that movie that's coming out where, like, all the countries are, like, giant machine cars?
Oh, yeah. That was actually
and it was made by the guy
who
directed, like, Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Oh, it's produced by the guy who was working on this movie was like a visual effects artist for Lord of the Rings, though. So,
right. So like that's what I'm imagining right now is the Fandom Roulette train is just this giant locomotive with cannons and arms, and some main protagonist is gonna try to shut us down.
Yep.
But it's never gonna happen.
Oh yeah, but before they can do that, it's our holiday episode. So like we're sitting here in like big, comfortable armchairs, and there's like a fire crackling, crackle. We're sipping on some hot chocolate with like maybe a little bit of schnapps in there.
Yeah.
And it's our guest. What? Knock. Oh, who's that at the door? Hey guys, how's it going?
Wait, Terry,
you're back.
You're back?
Yeah, guys. I probably don't sound anything like I sounded in earlier episodes.
Well, it's okay. You've been around. You've been off long enough where people probably aren't checking the last episode Terry was on.
That's true. Or I'm in witness protection, which was the joke Joe was going to go for.
Oh, right. So you're using a new voice to try to... Wait, but you're...
But yeah, I'm still going by Terry. I'm just using a new voice. I'm bad at witness protection, you guys.
The FBI didn't want to give you a new name, just a new voice?
Yeah, or a new place to live, because I can still come on in and talk to you guys. Yeah. How's it going, Terry? Oh, pretty good, Oh, man. So, Cody...
Yeah.
What a perfect... Oh, wait. Hey, what nerdy stuff have you been up to? Yeah, that's the thing we do at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. That's a bit we do. We talk about nerdy stuff. I've been on the Destiny 2 train. The Ivy's hooked in. A lot of
trains in your metaphors this week.
I know. There's something about trains that I really like this week, I guess. But
I love trains, too. Don't get me wrong.
No, Destiny 2's got like a winter holiday event that's going on, and... They're doing like a slow roll DLC where like you pay for a DLC, or you don't have to. You can wait until it all comes out. Mm-hmm. But they release little bits and chunks as it's like ready. So like you pay your $20 or $30. I don't remember how much it costs, but like each week there's like a new little thing that comes out that's like, hey, this is a new thing that you can do. And so over the course of the upcoming months, eventually it's gonna be like a freaking whole, new DLC with like stuff that like you can't even fathom, but they're doing it in this kind of slow roll kind of method. I'm liking it, but mostly because I'm so far behind from max level that I'm not even ready for the DLC yet. So
fair enough.
But yeah, what nerdy stuff have you been up to?
Well, my Decembers, as people may or may not know, are notoriously kind of busy. So it's
Right.
been a lot of me sitting around wishing I could go see movies I want to see. Um, but I've been keeping up in other ways. I've been working my way still through Star Trek. I actually
Nice.
just binged the first season of a sitcom called Superstore, which I'm still kind of forming an opinion about. But
What is that like
um
the office attempt at working at like a Walmart?
yeah, pretty much. But
Okay.
it's interesting. It's kind of it. I don't. It's a little mean spirited, but like so is The Office.
The Office has got a lot of weird things going on about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, this is really no different in a lot of ways. But like the first season ended with like the employees like threatening to go on strike. So like
Oh,
that was kind of cool.
that's a neat way to take that run.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like there's an aspect of it where it's like, hey, did you know that people who work at like superstores are like people too? Which is like,
Of
I
course
don't know,
they're
man.
people.
That's the thing about it that like kind of feels mean spirited about it to me, where it's like there is like guy who is very smart and like probably shouldn't be working at a superstore but is working at a superstore, and then
Right,
there is
right.
like cute girl who he has feelings for but she's involved with another person, and then there's like
Pam
wacky
and
assistant
Jim.
manager who like takes things like way too seriously, and then there's
Dwight.
like a manager who is like kind-hearted but like kind of an idiot and like sometimes put his foot in his mouth.
Michael Scott. Holy shit, this is just The Office.
And guess what? You know what the show creator's role was before, what they worked with on before they moved over to Superstore?
Oh man, let me hold on.
Yeah,
The Office.
it was The Office. Yes, but
No.
it's interesting, and my friend assured me that it gets pretty interesting as they keep going along. So like, there's like a through line about just like, hey, these like superstores are convenient, but like at what cost kind of deal.
Right,
So
and I'm also curious because I know I do this a lot, and maybe we've talked about it on the show a little bit, but there is this kind of interesting dynamic in just kind of like nerd or even just show like, just content in general
sure, yeah.
where if you break it down it's like, oh, this sounds like The Office in the superstore.
Mm-hmm.
But in practice, like actually watching it, like I'm sure that's just kind of like a scripted formula that worked,
Sure.
but
Well, I
they're going to
mean,
put their own, like I wonder if this is like, okay, well The Office was a success. Can I do this again without like, completely ripping off of the show? Like I don't know. I'm
well here.
curious because I know for me hearing all this, I probably won't watch the show
Uh huh.
just because like to
Yeah.
me that seems, but then I also I watched Parks and Rec,
Mm-hmm.
which when you boil it down to its key components, it's like The Office, but instead you're in
Of
a
government.
form of government, yeah, instead of a
Well, here.
business.
Let me toss this one out to you.
Yeah.
Without going too long. So there was a show. That has a young, very educated woman
Okay.
walking into a bar,
Okay.
and she falls in love with the bartender slash owner, or I
Okay.
mean, it's a very like will they won't they show. Like, when you break it down to trope terms, like yeah, things start sounding similar. But anyways,
Yeah. No, and that's what I mean is like I'm
oh yeah, for sure,
curious about the things that I've like been like, nope, hard pass because this sounds way too similar to something
mm-hmm.
else when I
Sure.
could have given it a shot and actually enjoyed it. I don't know.
Eh, you know what? It was one of those deals where it was like, hey, I kind of I wanted a fun like a sitcom to watch when Star Trek got a little too heavy,
Okay. Yeah.
and I didn't want to rewatch Parks and Rec for like the 50th time, so
Dude, I know I've watched it in its entirety once with like scattered episodes here and there,
uh
but Jess has watched that show more times than I could possibly fathom, like in
Yeah.
its entire, besides like there's certain seasons that she'll skip because she's not like a big fan, but she has watched the same like 5 seasons, like I want to say like 5 or 6 times.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. I've watched it a lot as well. But
Yeah.
anyways, so as I mentioned in the intro, we're like changing it up a little bit this week.
Yeah.
And we decided that we were going to do well, here, want to like explain each of our lists?
Right.
Not that they need a whole lot of explanation, but still.
Yeah, this is kind of like, I know other people have done this, and we're looking back on 2018, the good, the bad, the really bad, the, all this nonsense, and we've come up with our own kind of top 10 lists of 2018, things to check on for the holiday season. Like if you're, let's say you get a gift card to GameStop and you're like, man, I don't know what to get.
Heck yeah.
Well, my list is going to be the top 10 games of 2018.
And my list is a number of various, I call them superlatives, but I don't have necessarily just like one thing to do, so I chose like favorite like some shows, some books, some comics,
some nerdy fandom
some
stuff of 2018.
Exactly. So we're gonna bounce back and forth, basically, to kind of help one another out, give our voices a break here and there.
Right, and plus, that's a lot to.
Yeah, for sure. yeah. So Cody, do you want to take it away?
Sure.
Drum roll.
So I'm gonna do my top 10 list, and I'm gonna start from 10.
Cool.
I don't want to, and I'm gonna preface like. These, like, there were a lot of games in 2018, and there were a lot of good games in 2018 that I played. So this isn't like, if the game that you wanted wasn't on here, not because it wasn't good, it's just like, for me and what I was going through this year, these were my top games.
Nice.
So, with that said, my number 10 spot was Dead Cells, which was a Metroidvania early access game for a long time. Like, I think it just came out this year, but it had been in early access for at least a year or two before that. And it's a Metroidvania where you go through this like crazy kind of it's like kind of like Castlevania. It's like this big kind of crazy looking castle with like shit floating everywhere and all this neat stuff. And each run, different enemies, different layouts, the weapons that you acquire are different, and it was some of the most fun roguelike experience that I've had in a while. And there, in a market with so many of them,
okay,
I think this was definitely worth a look-see.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna start it off with my favorite animated series of 2018.
Ooh.
Which is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
You were briefly talking about this last week. What turned it into your 2018 favorite?
So I knew like literally nothing about She-Ra or like the He-Man canon in general. Like I was just too young for that stuff. I know my cousins were like really into He-Man, but I remember seeing like a trailer for it and thinking like, that looks like it could be fun. And then I started watching the first episode and I was like, I'm kind of getting into this. And by the end, it really like turned into one of my favorite shows of the year. And so there was the first big thing that like, there was some controversy surrounding the show. Because the artist Noelle Stevenson, she has a very distinct art style. And basically people were unhappy that she was drawing this 16-year-old protagonist to look like a 16-year-old. As opposed to the one in the 80s where she was like a super hot like supermodel woman.
Right, but she's 16.
Yeah, right. People got mad about it.
I mean, I think that's going to be a general tone for a lot of fandoms in general. Like, and it's not a bad thing. I understand.
Oh yeah,
Like, I know some people are advert to change, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's if you like it, it's definitely worth me taking a peek at. And
Sure.
if they're drawing a 16-year-old girl like a 16-year-old girl, then I don't know. It'd be weird to dress her up like a 30s supermodel.
Yep.
Like,
Uh,
so.
but it all of the characters were really charming.
Okay.
And they really all just like they all kind of captured my heart. Even the villains of the show.
Okay, that's cool. I always like a good villain that you
Yeah.
can enjoy.
They play around with tropes a lot, which I always think is fun.
Yeah.
And there is one particular character that is like very stand out in my mind. His name is Seahawk.
Okay.
And Seahawk is a pirate who likes to light his own ships on fire.
Why would he do that?
Because adventure. So yeah, if you have Netflix and you liked the Voltron reboot, I would highly recommend giving it at least a shot. First episode's a 2-parter, and if you're not hooked by the end of the 2-parter, then hey, maybe it's not for you. But for me, it really kind of jumped up the ranks to one of my favorite shows of 2018. So
nice.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So number 9 on my list is Monster Hunter World. I actually kind of forgot this came out at the beginning of this year.
Hasn't this year felt like a million years?
Right. Well, the problem was, and it's kind of one of the reasons that it fell so low on my list, is I really wanted to play this on the PC. Like, so bad. But it didn't come out on the... Like, it came out in February of this year, the console version.
Switch exclusive, right?
No, this came out for the PS4 and Xbox One.
Okay.
However, the PC version didn't come out till, I think, October.
August.
Okay.
So, like, that's almost the entire year where I was like, man, I really want that 60 FPS Monster Hunter. I want that, I think the online was going to be better. It's kind of the nature of that beast with the PC. Yeah. It was just a bummer. And from what I've gathered, I didn't play it a whole ton when it first came out, but I did enjoy what I played. It's kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of, reboot's not the right word, but it's definitely more open to people who haven't played a Monster Hunter game, because Monster Hunters are by nature these very weird, hard games to get into.
Are they a little lore heavy?
Yeah, a little lore heavy, and the game doesn't necessarily go into great detail about some of the minute mechanics that become really important as you level up.
I can see how that's frustrating.
Yeah, but this one was really good. So, like, if you're into hunting monsters and you're okay with a little bit of nuance and some difficulty, I think this is definitely worth a look at.
Cool. So, my next one is favorite television show of 2018.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear
live
this
action.
one.
So, instead of animated,
Right.
It is Season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow / the first half of Season 4 of Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay.
So, Legends of Tomorrow, as you can hear from my intro, has been around for a little bit now. And I'm going to be frank with you guys. Oh, I thought you were Joe.
Woof.
I'm sorry. So the first season
we gotta stop the show.
The first season was admittedly like pretty rough.
Okay.
And then in the second season, they kind of like reassessed and they removed some characters. They added some new characters, and the whole tone of the show in general just felt like a little bit more fun. And then season 3, they were just like, fuck it. And they made the show about the most buck wild thing on television right now.
Nice.
So I think one of the big things that they did, a couple of things that they really did that I think really kind of transformed the show is starting in late season 2 and then starting in season 3 and carrying on through this season. They've been doing a lot of like film homage-y things.
Okay.
So like hey, like this is kind of like a parody, or like this is kind of like an homage to like, 80s camp slasher movies, and this is like an homage to like the classic like 1930s like, adventure serial, and this and that and the other thing. And the show is very meta. It's very referential. And for one of the things that I thought was really fun is there's a reviewer that I really like to read when the episodes air, and they usually have at the end like a bullet pointed list of quotes that just like couldn't make it into the episode. And they started for season 4 including a segment called "Why the Fuck Not," which talks about the wackiest thing that episode did that week.
Right.
And then in season 4, like, I wonder if they started getting worried that, like, the time travel premise was starting to get a little bit worn out. So they decided what to do to fix the problem was they introduced John Constantine to the show. And now, not only are they going through time, but they're going through time fighting magical creatures.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for them for kind of keeping themselves relevant, at least making things interesting. Cause,
sure.
You know.
You know what? I was really into like the DC universe on CW.
Okay.
And then in season 2, Flash lost me.
Okay.
Arrow still kept my interest, but like there were some admittedly really rough seasons. And now like of the lot, the only one I really watch anymore is Legends of Tomorrow. Like I might go back and rewatch the other ones eventually, but at the moment it's all about Legends. So
hell yeah.
All right. Your number 8.
Right. My number 8 video game of the year is Into the Breach.
Ooh, I've heard about this one.
Yeah, it is a pixel art strategy turn-based game set in the post-apocalypse super future where these aliens, or maybe not aliens, you're not really sure. It kind of leaves itself open to interpretation. But these aliens, we'll call them, are trying to destroy the world, and you're this like elite military group who goes back in time and tries to fix all of the different timelines from these aliens, causing this catastrophic destruction of Earth.
Strangely thematic.
Right, and it's if you've ever played Advanced Wars or Fire Emblem, you get an idea of how this game kind of plays out. It's got great music. I love the pixel art style for this game. It's super quick. Like the games don't go very long, and you just kind of keep playing them through, and there's like different challenges, and there's like certain unlocks that you can only get after completing certain, objectives.
Very cool.
And you have all these different units that you can either start with or acquire as you're playing through the kind of scenario. And it's super cool. Like the first time I got to the end, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then I unlocked my first like new set of units, and I was like, oh boy, this is going to be sick. And I just lost so many hours playing this game. It's a good one.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, what's up on your list?
All right, so my next one is favorite comic of 2018.
Okay.
So the comic is called Die.
Wow.
And by that I mean it's referencing an individual die, like from Dungeons and Dragons and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So, this one might be considered cheating because I think at the time of recording there are only like 2 issues of it out.
Okay. I mean, if it's your favorite comic, it's your favorite comic. I think it's okay.
Yeah. But let's just put it this way: I read the first issue and it had me hooked pretty immediately.
Nice.
So Die is a collaboration of Kieran Gillen, who is a comic book writer whose some of his more famous credits include The Wicked and the Divine, which is wrapping up right now, which is an indie comic about gods coming back to Earth in 2016 as pop stars.
Huh.
And then they live for 2 years and then they die, and it's like kind of gives you like a backstory about like the kids who inhabit the gods, why they're so fascinated by them, and then there are all kinds of other cool things like showing how the pantheon kind of arrives in different eras. So like the one era they were, you know, like Edgar Allan Poe and like goth horror writers, and like one time they were like Jules Verne and like sci-fi adventure writers and things like that.
Interesting. That's really neat.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a good comic as well. But this is like the first issue of their new thing. Journey into Mystery, which is the Kid Loki comic. And then he wrote the really great Vader/Vader Down series, and now is working on the main Star Wars. And then the art is by Stephanie Hans, who's an amazing artist who does a lot of cover art. And I think this is the first time she's going to be doing an ongoing series in quite a while. Because she's become really like sought after for her covers. But Dai tells the story of a group of 5 adults who were trapped in an RPG when they were children. And so there's kind of 3 simultaneous timelines, at least from that's what I was looking like from issue 1, which is them when they were children, them when they come back from the game, and then them 5 years down the road, kind of dealing with the trauma of being trapped. So I read a lot of stuff leading up to this comic. I was really anticipating it, really hype. The creators described it as goth Jumanji.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, the first thing I thought of immediately was Jumanji, so I like it.
Yeah, and so it also is going to do other things, like kind of, you know, investigating the state of like nerd culture, and how nerd culture has like grown and developed. You know, the idea of escapism, and the first issue was really cool with some really evocative art. And I think another really cool thing about it, just kind of to end on this, Kieran Gillen actually like wrote a completely new game system for this comic that he is eventually going to release to the public, so you can play your own version at home.
Very neat.
Yeah. All right, number 7.
Number 7, this is another pixel art game. This is The Messenger, which I believe came out for the PC and the Nintendo Switch.
Very cool.
It is a action platformer where you play a ninja during the apocalypse ending of our universe, and your job is to deliver this message to this big old mountain. And it's, you know, I say action platformer, you can like throw you know, ninja stars and slash with your sword to kill monsters, but like a big thing is like using the environment to get around, using you start off with like a double jump that only activates if you've hit something. And then eventually you'll get stuff like you get like a kind of like a glide that lets you kind of slow fall and stuff like that. It's super cool, and I don't want to say much more than that because there's kind of like a big there's a big game / spoiler that happens kind of midway through the game that's super dope.
Fair enough.
But it's very reminiscent of Ninja Gaiden.
Okay.
If Ninja Gaiden was a little easier.
No, okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's not quite as brutal as infinitely spawning people on the side of the room that make you fall to your death infinitely.
Sure. That's nice of them.
Yeah.
All right. So my next one is what I'm calling underrated media of 2018, or underrated movie of 2018, which is a movie called Annihilation.
Was this Why does this sound familiar?
It's a smaller scale sci-fi movie that I might have talked about on here before. I don't.
Oh, was this part of the Cloverfield anthology?
No, it wasn't actually.
Okay.
So, this movie was directed by Alec Garland, whose credits include 2 years ago now is Ex Machina.
Okay.
The movie Dread, and the movie 28 Days Later.
Ooh, I like it already.
Yeah, so it kind of like follows his trend of like smaller scale, kind of like headier sci-fi movies.
Okay.
So basically it's like a movie that I don't want to sound like rude when I say this, but like it doesn't rely on like a big CGI third act that involves like a blue laser, because I like my big CGI third acts. One of my most anticipated movies has CGI sharks versus CGI seahorses. So but Annihilation follows a team of all-female scientists as they...
I remember this now. Go on.
Okay. Did I talk about it on here?
I don't know if you did, but like I was really trying to think of like what movies came out this year, and that was one of the ones. Again, I didn't see it, but I'd heard things about it.
Yeah. So they're exploring something called the Shimmer, which is this kind of like weird unknown alien entity that has crash landed in a place that they only call Alien or Area X. It's never defined, but it feels like southeastern United States, like maybe like Florida swamp country or like somewhere in Georgia.
Okay.
And it's growing, and it has a weird effect on the wildlife that lives there. So it's a slow moving movie, and it's a slow burn, but it has limited special effects. But when they really get going on it, it's really cool. It has one of the scariest creatures I've seen in movies in a really long time.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was just kind of nice watching a movie that was being made with like a big emphasis on story versus like spectacle.
Okay.
And it was really cool too because like it I've watched some really interesting analyses about it where it talks about how it's secretly a movie about like dealing with grief and different like coping mechanisms for things like this. So if you saw Ex Machina, which I highly recommend seeing that movie as well. That movie is a little underrated, or I mean, it was nominated for an Academy Award, but it's a really good movie from a couple of years ago. It's kind of he's kind of like one of our leading voices in kind of like the smaller scale sci-fi genre.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, should we move to the middle section real quick before we move on?
I think that sounds great. I was actually gonna say either after this one or after the next one. So, anyways,
Good start.
Middle section time. Come and learn about social media at the middle section where you learn about us and our social media. It was repetitive, but hey, as a wise person once said, if you want to get a point across, you just kind of like say it a lot. So
right.
Anyway,
so guys, this is the middle section. We take a brief moment to tell you guys how you can interact with us on our social media and kind of, get in on this conversation. Ask us questions about the things we talked about, because we'd love to answer them or go back and revisit certain topics if we feel like maybe we haven't hit the big picture. So
for sure.
Big area to get at us is Fandom R_podcast. That is our Twitter handle. You can find us tweeting our episodes, or when we happen to have hiccups in the system and we have to, put things out later, or just general stuff. My lovely wife is helping us with this front, and so occasionally she'll
Thank you, Jess.
post some other things that are just general nerdy fan stuff. So please check us out there. Follow us. If you want to ask us questions, anything, personal, not personal, about the show, what have you, you can send us an email at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where you can scroll through our episodes and scroll through our bios, and all of our social media links are at the bottom.
Yep.
And also at the bottom is a little area where you can fill out a little email that gets sent directly to us. So that is how you can get in contact with us on the internet.
Wow, look at that.
Right. We're also on SoundCloud and iTunes and Google Play and, just generally where you get podcasts from.
Yeah, for sure.
So, this is a personal project for us, so we greatly appreciate the, telling your friends about us, liking, subscribing, all that stuff, pushing us up on those internet areas so that we can be internet people.
Yay!
Yeah, we're also on Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook. If you want to find out more stuff, or if you're, if you are active on those communities, we're also on there doing our thing.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So anyways, back to the episode. It's middle section time.
Yeah, like it.
Gentlemen,
Oh boy.
I'm coming to say hello during your holiday special. Whoa, you didn't even knock on the door. How'd you get it? I turned into a cloud of bats, you see. Wow. It's pretty cool. Yes,
Joe, I'm gonna have to ask you, where in the studio do you
yeah.
have an area for a cloud of bats?
The
To
air
come in.
vents.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, because usually my air vents are just big open holes.
Yeah, we never screw down the grates on the air vents.
There's no grate. There's just a hole where shit comes out.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, it's for when our good old buddy Drac from that one episode wants to come and hang out with us.
Right. Okay, I understand. Totally get it.
I think you guys should get back to the list. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you want me to kick off this part, Cody?
Oh boy.
Where do you want to go?
No, I'll start with number 6. We're getting up there.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
My number 6 pick for 2018 was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu / Pokemon Let's Go Eevee.
Ooh, I was curious to hear about these ones.
Right. This game came out for the Switch. It's basically a really pretty, beefed up to modern days with Pokemon Let's Go mechanics attached to it. Pokemon, red, blue, and yellow.
Okay.
Where you play as a 10-year-old boy or girl who goes out and discovers that there's an entire... What?
That fucker just can't remember.
Right. And your whole thing is going around catching these, these animals and these small red and white balls. And if you're familiar with the Pokemon games, they've made a couple of changes that may impress or, hinder your, depending on how avert you are to change.
Sure.
They added a lot of neat new mechanics, like catching Pokemon with the Wiimote, like you're actually throwing a Pokeball at the screen. I think that's like a really neat twist on, instead of just pressing A.
Oh, that's cool.
They've added a couple new things. They've removed some of the kind of more difficult core mechanics of the fighting parts of Pokemon. But this is kind of the gateway drug, if you will, of Pokemon games. All right. So I think it's a good romp. If you haven't played Pokemon Red or don't even know what I'm talking about, like, this is a fun RPG where you go around collecting cute creatures that get stronger as you fight with them or catch other Pokemon, and it's super fun.
I'm glad to hear that. It looked really fun on the ads. So
yeah, oh, it's super fun. I wish I had more time to play all these games.
All right. So my next one is my favorite blockbuster of 2018.
Blockbuster.
Blah, yes, blah.
I have a feeling I know where this is going.
No, not yet.
Really?
That's the finale.
Oh, okay.
I'm Black Panther.
Oh shit, you're right. That did come out this year.
Mm-hmm. So I had a big debate on this one because there were a fair number of big blockbusters that came out. But there was something about Black Panther that just kind of stuck with me during 2018.
Okay.
I think one of the things that like really stuck with me is the fact that like the villain was like introduced, putting a mirror up to like the industry that I'm a part of, like really early into the film.
Okay,
which I thought was like pretty brave of the filmmakers. So if if you have seen Black Panther, the scene in like the museum early on, and that's all as far as I'll go. And the other thing about this is I was really excited to follow the career of Ryan Coogler, who was the director of this. He also directed Fruitvale Station, and he directed Creed, and is involved in a couple other projects, but not necessarily as director. He has this like really uncanny ability of taking big movies and like making them feel very personal and small. So like, just this whole movie was about exploring the concept of legacy, which felt different than a lot of other Marvel movies. Just the whole concept of, kind of finding out like who your parents are, which is a big struggle, I think, for a lot of us as we get older.
Sure, yeah.
And it was really a very different Marvel movie, which I thought was really cool. Also, one of the great villains of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that gets its own special mention. Michael B. Jordan was great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Black
Yeah.
Panther, and I thought their villain this time was spot on. It was good. I just forgot that even came out this year.
Yeah, this year felt like a long one, huh?
Oh god, it felt like 4 years. Jeez.
Yeah. There was an Olympics this year. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Wow, rough.
All right. Next one.
Yeah, number 5. We're getting to the tops. Like, these are the ones that really stuck out in my head.
Okay.
And these were kind of the hardest ones to fit in a particular order.
Okay.
But my number 5 is the Destiny 2 Forsaken DLC patch.
This was the thing that got you back into it, right?
Right. So Destiny 2 has been out for a while now. It didn't come out this year, but the Forsaken DLC, which was like a big story push, it tells the tale of one of the main kind of NPCs that you kind of gotten used to from Destiny 1 and the entirety of Destiny 2, who, for a lack of a better term, eats it and dies in a world that... So the premise of Destiny 2 is you play as a character who can't die.
Oh.
Like, you can die, like, you can take a shot and, like, but you have this thing called a ghost, which resurrects you.
Interesting.
And you're basically the guardians of this kind of magic and light that kind of keeps you alive, even though you die a million times, because I die and I'm terrible at this game. And so the DLC added a lot of fun stuff. It added a whole new game mode, which was a kind of an interesting mix of PvP, player versus player, and player versus environment elements called Gambit. Ooh. And just I've had some beefs and whatnot with Destiny 2 in the past, but I think this DLC has made the game at least worthy enough of a look at. If it's a looter shooter, so you kind of have to go into it knowing that you shoot aliens to get loot, so that you can shoot more aliens to get more loot. If that's not your game, I understand, but this one really stuck in my heart as soon as this Forsaken DLC came out. I've actually probably, besides one of my other games that's up there, it's probably the most hours I've put in a game this year.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, so my next category is a twofer.
Ooh.
My 2 most disappointing of 2018.
Oof.
So the first one is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Okay. I've heard so many mixed things about this, mostly bad.
Now, admittedly, I was not super jazzed for this movie.
Okay.
I went to go see it with my sister and my cousin, mainly because I wanted to hang out with my sister and my cousin, and that was part of the package.
Right.
So I kind of had a weird trajectory with this movie. I was not a huge fan, or I liked the first one well enough. It was a flawed movie, but it was at least an interestingly flawed movie.
Sure.
And then the trailers of this movie were like a fucking roller coaster, man. Like, the first one was okay. The second one actually had me, like, moderately excited.
Okay.
The third trailer made me angry because not everything has to be X-Men, you guys. And
what do you mean by that exactly?
So the third trailer, right? That was the one that featured like the most Johnny Depp.
Okay.
And like the movie ends with him like talking, like monologuing for like 40 fucking minutes.
Oh, good, because that's what we need is
also
a good old-fashioned monologue.
I fell asleep like 3 times during that movie, admittedly.
Yikes.
Which I don't tend to do in movie theaters. So take that for what it's worth. But it was one of those deals where it's like, why is it that the most magical amongst us like have to live in hiding and in fear? And then he's like, I think that the magic users should be the ones who are like in charge, and then like Dumbledore's like, "Hey, I'm Jude Law now," and I think that like we can peacefully coexist with the Muggles, and it's like it's not the Muggles' fault that they like fear what they don't understand, and like maybe we can work together. And I was like, it's just the X-Men, you guys. Like,
Right. No,
it's
that
just
is definitely the plot of like the entirety of X-Men
yeah,
is superpowers are scary, so humans don't like them. And then each side wants to either coexist or destroy or, put humans quote unquote in their place.
yeah. So that was a big one. And then the fourth trailer had me laughing because the main reason it had me laughing was she revealed that Nagini was a snake woman the whole time. And
Who?
so in like the Harry Potter books, like Voldemort has like a snake that's always by his side named Nagini.
Oh, yeah, his snake.
And then
Okay.
it was revealed in this movie that she was actually like a cursed South Korean woman who slowly is losing her humanity, and then when she loses her humanity, she turns into a snake forever.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's a nice way of being like, shit, we wanted to not CGI a giant snake around him forever. Let's hire somebody and then
Well,
write
those
in
movies have
some
already
lame
been made.
excuse.
Like Voldemort's like the bad guy from like the Harry Potter films, so they already
Right.
had the big CGI snake. They just made her a woman now.
Okay, that seems
Weird.
like they were they were fishing for something.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
and then
but-
like the fact that she was like an Asian woman, like they were like, "Hey, look, inclusivity," and then everyone was like, "No, though," because like, no.
yeah, that's not really being inclusive when she's a snake.
Yeah. But anyways, it was just like a long, boring movie. There's like a part where like four characters are standing in a circle and they literally tell you like elaborate backstory that like of characters that you don't care about. Or at least I didn't care
Cool.
about.
I like that. I enjoy being told instead of shown things that I need to know in visual mediums.
Yep. And then the best part of the whole thing is, so at the end of the first movie, the character played by Ezra Miller explodes.
Okay.
Because he's like a special kind of magical being. No, it was there was some convoluted thing, but he explodes. And then at the beginning of the next of this one, it's like, hey, Ezra Miller is back, and Newt Scamander's like, but didn't he die? And they're like, nope. And then they just kind of like move on. They don't explain it. They don't explain how or why. They just move on.
Quality movie.
And then it just really seems to me like they were really embarrassed that they like quadrupled down on a movie about a cryptozoologist. Like, yeah. Then the other one, I'm sorry, this is a twofer. You know what? I'll let you go, and then I'll do my second most disappointing of 2018. So, number 4.
Sure. So number 4 for me is Red Dead Redemption,
Okay.
which is a game about being a member of an outlaw gang who is kind of slowly being pushed out as the kind of modernization of the Americas are starting to push west.
Okay.
And basically it's watching a train wreck that just seems to get worse and worse before the train actually derails. I put it at number 4 because there are some things, like this game is everything is deliberate in this game, and some of its deliberate attempts at feeling like a Western kind of lose me. Like,
Okay.
some of the mechanics, like I've said before, there's a lot of mechanics in this game for like the different things. Like you can't just hold X to make your horse go faster. You have to tap it, and you have to tap it in a certain way.
Uh-huh.
And you can't just shoot a gun with the trigger. You got to shoot and then press the trigger again to kind of cock the lever back because, you know, they wanted to be immersive, but to me it just feels like
Too
was
much.
just a little too much.
Yeah.
And like it was kind of a headache to play. But the game is like the story is granted I haven't finished it because, you know, there's not enough time in the world. But from what I played, it was very interesting. The reason why it's not higher up on my list is because I heard the online is awful in this game. It is just a shit show. Sure. And I've also heard rumor that once you get to chapter 5, things start to get a little silly in the story and kind of derail itself in ways.
Okay.
So that's why it's number 4. Still a great game. I already put a lot of time into it, and I'm only on chapter 3. But, you know, there are other games that complete the entire thing without being a chore.
Sure. I get it. All right, so just disappointing part 2. The Dragon Prince on Netflix.
The Dragon Prince. I don't think I heard of this one either.
Yeah, so it's another animated series because I love me my animation.
Okay.
It was one half of the creative or 1/3 of the creative team of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh,
so I was really excited because that's like one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah, that's a good show.
And basically, there's 2 things that were kind of wrong about it. The first one is it's one of those deals where it was 2D background with 3D CG characters.
Yikes.
And then they moved very stiff and very like broken puppets. And then I found out later that the the showrunners were defending it because they wanted their characters to blend better with the 2D backgrounds. So
then why didn't they just make 2D people on 2D backgrounds?
Because it's cheaper to do it on computers, I guess.
I mean, okay. I mean, you're right, but like, that's not. You're defending a business practice, not like a design choice. That feels very cheap to me.
And then, so like, you know, I've watched things with not the greatest animation before. So its second sin was I personally just found it kind of boring. I know other people fell in love with it, which is cool. If it was your jam, that's awesome. Near the end of the first season, a couple of things happened, which is the bad guy the bad guy character has 2 children.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, son, you're going to go and look for the princes. If you find them, maybe you should make sure they don't come back. And he's like, what do you mean, Dad? He's like, you should just make sure that they don't come back. He's like, burr, burr. Then he goes to his daughter. He's like, hey, daughter. And she's like, what's up, Dad? And she's like, if your brother doesn't do the thing I asked him to do, maybe you should make sure your brother does the thing. I'm like, you're so transparently evil. Why are your children following you this closely? And
hey, son, go kill your friends.
Yeah, it was really messed up.
But what if I don't want to? Hold on 1 second. Hey, daughter, if your brother's being a shithead, kill him.
Yep.
Wait, what if I like my brother? Like,
yeah, and
it seems very
I just found
very
it
trite.
I watched all of it. I was not a fan of it.
Okay. That's a bummer.
Yeah. So disappointing. All right. So anyway, number 3 for you.
Number 3. This was the hardest. Like 1 to 3. I finished this game in most of its entirety. I completed the main story. I didn't 100% it because no way. And that was Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Nice.
This game, I never thought that an Assassin's Creed game would hit my top 10 ever since 3. Or Black Flags was probably my last like good one. Yeah. But this one was big and open, and the things that I didn't like about it, the kind of grindy aspects, once I started like figuring out what I was actually supposed to do, the grind didn't feel so bad, and it wasn't quite as damning if you weren't the right level for things. I found out, like, once you get like good gear and you start kind of going through the main story and finding out about this cult, it wasn't quite as damning as I initially thought.
Okay.
I still don't agree with the business practice, and please don't buy the shitty DLC where it makes you level up faster and stuff. I would play this game like it's a really long assassin RPG thing set in the Peloponnesian War. Because I would argue that it's hardly an Assassin's Creed game at this point, because it's not about, I mean, the outside world, it's about the assassins and the Templars, but the meat of the game is just having your own odyssey with all this crazy shit that happens. It was super fun. There was a lot of hours put into this game. I recommend it.
Yeah, it looked really cool from the trailers. So,
yes.
All right. My next one is best trailer of 2018.
Cool.
What a weird category.
There's so many trailers though. How do you pick just one?
I think it's based on how many times I watch it, if I'm being completely honest.
That's fair. That's a pretty good note to judge it on.
So, honorable mention goes to Ant-Man and the Wasp for best use of a trailer song, which was It Takes Two to make a thing go right.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
Here's a second thing I'll throw in. I had no interest in going to see Aquaman until the trailer in October dropped.
Interesting.
So I watched it a lot. I watched that trailer a lot, and it convinced me to want to go see a movie. I think that's another important aspect of a trailer, is it makes you want to go see it.
Yeah, that's what it should be anyways.
And so one of the big reasons why it convinced me was it looked like big dumb fun, and I'm all about big dumb fun. And then they put Aquaman into his canonical orange and green suit, and that sold it on me, because like there's this trend in modern day comics of, it's like, man, aren't spandex costumes silly? Like here he is in a more sensible like duster now, or like here's like Wonder Woman, but like she's in like jean shorts and like a red tank top, and it's like, I want the cheesy, okay? Joe wants cheesy. And so that trailer did it. Also, this trailer is, or this category is also a little bit of a sort of concession thing, which is films that I probably would have been on my list if December isn't so screwy for me. So those are Aquaman, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Anticipate reviews in 2019.
Nice. I like it.
All right. Number 2 for you.
Number 2. This was even harder.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I haven't gotten as much time with this as I would like.
Okay.
But from what I played and what I've seen, because I've seen a lot of this game, even in the little time that it's been out, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was number 2 on my list. This is the perfection of Smash Brother games. This has every character, every level as far as I'm aware. It has a unique system to unlock people. It's playtime, so you could be doing anything and characters will get unlocked, and I really like that. There's so much music in this game from all of these different, like the music is lovely, and there's even like this weird little thing that you can do where you can have the game kind of act almost like an iPod, and you can plug your headphones into it and just kind of like jam out to, the ridiculous soundtrack that is Smash Brothers. I like that they kept the classic mode where it's just kind of like fight these dudes, but then they added another layer element there where there's this like picture, and you can start at like normal difficulty or, go to hard mode, and the more points you collect, the more of this like kind of really intricate mural starts to show.
That sounds awesome.
And certain bosses in classic mode are like, it's not all just Master Hand. Like, if you're familiar with
okay.
the Kirby games, I don't remember his name, but he's in one of the Kirby All-Star games where it's this like little pink guy with like a magic hat, and he has like he's very iconic, like a very iconic boss, and they switched out Master Hand for this guy just for Kirby,
Okay.
as I'm aware. Like, there's just so much in this game. There's so much to do, so much to unlock. This had to have been on my list, but I've been loving every second of it. I actually bruised my thumbs the night it came out.
Oh God.
Yeah, like they healed up by the end of Sunday, but like I played that game so hard that first night that like my thumbs hurt, and like there was like a layer of numbness to my thumbs.
Goodness.
Yeah,
Goodness
I
graphics.
go hard, I guess.
Was it Paintra?
Huh?
Was that character Paintra?
No.
No. Okay. Hey man,
No,
I don't know that much
I actually
about
haven't
Kirby
found my
lore.
main yet. I haven't even unlocked all the characters yet.
Okay.
I really like King K. Rool though. He's fun. He's just like a fun character to play. He's silly.
Is it Grill?
But what?
I'm looking at Kirby villains. Sorry.
Oh, you're talking about. I have no idea. He's got like a magical hat that's blue and pink with like little white balls on it. And his boss fight was like really iconic because he like grew these like spectral wings and like shot like energy beams at you. Like, he's a very iconic character, and I don't have the name in front of me, but I'm sure I'll add it in later in a deep voice.
You would assume correct. His name was Marks.
All right.
So anyways,
My next category is my favorite book of 2018.
cool.
Yeah, like I said, I'm all over the place, but
Hey, I like it.
so once again, maybe technically considered cheating, because this was actually technically published in December of 2017. But as my last category indicated, December media becomes January media for me.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to get access to it until January. So Persepolis Rising is the 6th book of the Expanse series, which I'm almost certain I've talked about before on this show.
Yes, we have talked about it on, I think, several occasions.
Yeah. It's a good series. Once again, highly recommended. This one just felt rather interesting to me, because they write these books fairly quickly, so they tend to be fairly topical, but with like sci-fi trappings.
Sure.
So this one talks. So it has POV characters. One of the POV characters is a member of a society that is more or less a successfully run fascist society.
Interesting.
And so it kind of explores like fascist society, but also like a fascist ideology.
Okay. Okay.
It discusses how resistances are born. Of course, a through line of the books is what is a terrorist and what is a freedom fighter. So like fun sci-fi things,
Right.
lofty sci-fi things, not anything that could be applied to our worlds today in 2018. Nope.
Definitely
no
not in 2018. No, sirree.
So this one is admittedly very short, mainly because anything I talk about could potentially be conveyed as a spoiler.
Sure. But it's worth a look.
It's worth a look. It's a very good series. The other thing about it too is there's a big time skip in it.
I always love a good time skip.
Yeah, so the last book ended, and then I think it was like a 5 or 6 year time skip between the last book and this book. So you kind of have seen how the galaxy has changed because of the events of the last book, and particularly of the one main through line protagonist and his crew. So, all right,
nice.
And your
Very
number
cool.
one.
My number one.
I'm so excited.
I actually had a feeling I knew this from the beginning when I decided to do this, but went through a lot of, Smash was close.
Mm-hmm.
It was close.
Yeah.
But My number one for this year is God of War on the PS4.
Oh, Dad of War.
Yeah, Dad of War, fucking the dad and son adventure everyone always wanted, with axe throwing and, people murdering and...
I could be misremembering this, but weren't you initially kind of, like, not that excited about God of War?
Yeah, I was super, like... God of War, the first God of War games were very much in that kind of video game mantra of like, dun, 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 super manly, I got big muscles, I like beating people up, yeah, sometimes I see a girl butt, dun, dun, dun. And it's like, it's that like, that really amped up like high schooler mentality that I feel like they were trying to get to.
Sure.
And to me, by the time God of War 1, 2, and 3 had come out, I was kind of like, I'm done with, like, I know that's not, like, a real thing that I should be excited about.
Yeah.
At least in the way that it was portrayed in at least the earlier God of War games. Because I believe, much like in, what was man, this is probably going to date me, but, like, the first God of War, they had like a really kind of gross scene where Kratos is like having sex with Aphrodite or something.
Yeah.
And like they do the whole like, oh, but it's they hide all the, the nasty bits, of course, but it's still like, come on, really? Like, this is a game about getting revenge because the gods fucked you over, and like that's the road you want to take on this. Like it seemed very childish, but I wanted to play this one because there's been a huge time jump, both in game and out of game, between God of War 3 and this one. And this one tells an incredible story about a father and son who have to deal with the grief of a lost family member, in this case the mother.
Fun!
And, and all the trappings of Norse mythology that follows with it, because Kratos has murdered all the Greek pantheon, spoiler alert, and has moved on to, not to go and murder them, but like has gone to live in the realms of, not Asgard, but I'm trying to remember the mortal plane name
Midgard.
for Midgard, yeah, with his wife, I presume wife. They never really get into that, but there's like a lot of neat story bits. They don't dump the kind of big three right off the bat.
Okay.
Like almost immediately. In fact, you find out that one of the characters happens to be one of those gods at some point. I won't get into too many spoilers, but they don't you don't fight Odin right away. They kind of build up to like, Odin and Thor are a bunch of fucking dicks. Mm-hmm. And there's a secret ending where Thor fucking shows up at your house and he's presumably pissed off because you've killed some of the lesser known pantheon of Norse mythology. And there's a big secret twist at the end.
Nice.
Or revelation. And I'm not going to spoil that, but it's got the same God of War gameplay, like it's action, like you go and beat shit up, you beat, Norse monsters and skeletons and all that stuff. There's puzzles, you get access to certain items that kind of change the way you play the game. Ugh, it's so good. Like it's not as long as some of the other games that came out this year, like a lot of the open world games, but it's a short, I don't even want to say short, it's a contained story. Yep. That feels really great. There were no bugs. There were no, there's no bullshit DLC. There's like a lot of the stuff that I've seen this year in 2018. None of that was apparent in God of War. It is from my generation of gamers and how we grew up. Like it's a solid game. It's, if you only could pick one of these games and you have a PS4, I would pick God of War.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Right. I also have 3 other...
Oh, some honorable mentions?
Yeah. So, well, one of them's an honorable mention.
Okay.
I do have to mention Spider-Man.
Yep.
And while it was a great game, to me, one of the big things that kind of fell off for me was it's using really old, dated open world gimmicks, like opening up different parts of the map and having all this stuff on the map and like a lot of the collectathon kind of stuff. Like it felt very tacked on.
Sure.
Which is unfortunate because to me, I think that brought that down compared to all these other games where, sure, some of the games on my list had some issues, but that one really kind of threw me.
Sure.
The most disappointing game of the year?
Okay.
Metal Gear Survive.
Oh.
I was so excited for this game, hoping that the Metal Gear franchise wasn't dead because Konami had left. Like, even if it's like side shit, but it's an open world, like, survival game that just looked like it's awful. The DLC for it is ridiculous. Like, it's just a gross game. Like, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time shitting on it, but this game, it's not good.
There's a whole episode, if memory serves.
Right. There's definitely one there. You'll have to find it, but it's a good one.
Uh-huh.
And then my last one, the No Man's Sky Award, a game that I hope redeems itself because I was really excited about it.
Okay.
Which is Fallout 76.
Okay.
Because it
I've
was
heard similar things.
Yeah, it's an open world game that was supposed to be cooperative, but also have PvP elements. It was supposed to kind of be like Fallout 4, but with other people there. And it had a very weak launch. There were a lot of things that weren't in the game that should have been in the game, although I'm sure they fixed it or they come up, or they're working on it. But a lot of it is there's not a lot to do, and the game just keeps wanting you to spend real life money on in-game stuff in a game that's like kind of not, there's not a lot going on. Like, if you're a big Fallout fan and like the lore excites you, like there might be a game here, because I've seen some people who play it for the lore.
Okay.
And all the cassette tapes and all that shit. And, if that's your bag, cool. But, like, the crafting system is kind of weak because your inventory is limited. So, like, oftentimes you want to make stuff, but you got a lot of inventory. Like, your inventory is just filled with other shit. And I feel like they couldn't decide on whether or not they wanted to be like a truly PvP game or if they just wanted it to be a co-op experience with like how PvP works in the game. I think there's structure here to make Fallout 76 better.
Okay.
From what I've seen, but right now it's kind of in a mess, and I wouldn't get it unless you're either a diehard fan or you get it on a sale and you're like, fuck it, I've played everything else. So that's all I got. Well, that was the thing about No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky started off and it was a pretty big stinker. It was like, it wasn't worth the $60, but over the course of a year, they put a lot of love into it, and it's, in my opinion, it's turned into a game that's probably worth that $60 now. Like, everything has a place. There's more shit to do. There's even like a story. Like, that's why I call this the No Man's Sky Award, because while it sucks right now, I'm hoping that with a little bit of Bethesda love, Fallout 76 will turn into something neat.
Sure.
So we'll see. I'll revisit Fallout 76 in the future.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
and in the least